They never saw it coming. They underestimated you, mistook your silence for surrender, and your patience for weakness. But you were never standing still. You were waiting, watching, knowing that the tides would turn in your favor. Every move they made against you, every attempt to suppress your light, only tightened the chains around their own fate. And now, the reckoning has begun. This isn't just a story of survival. This is the rise of the unstoppable. You are not just another player in their game, you are the one who flips the board. They tried to write your ending, but destiny holds the pen, and it was always in your hands. If they thought you would break, they were mistaken. If they believed they could contain you, they never understood what they were up against. You are the storm, the shift, the force they can't comprehend, and nothing, absolutely nothing, can stand in your way. Drop it in the comments below. I am the unbreakable. I am the chosen. Their struggle is a spectacle of desperation, a chaotic flurry of resistance that unravels them from within. Each movement, frantic and erratic, only accelerates their collapse, as if they were built on the illusion of control rather than true strength. The instant they sense your presence, a ripple disturbs the unseen fabric of their reality, forcing them to confront a truth they cannot bear. You are not bound by their order, and that terrifies them. They lash out, but it is futile. Their very efforts to suppress you dismantle the fragile foundation they stand on. You are not the cause of their destruction, merely the undeniable force that exposes it. Every challenge hurled at you does not diminish you. It sharpens you, forging something indomitable from within. You are not a passive recipient of their hostility. You are the ignition point, the catalyst that dismantles their web of deception. Their attempts to suffocate your flame only make it burn brighter, proving that you are a force beyond their reach. Yet, you do not stand alone. Across ages and dimensions, others rise with you, bound by the same unbreakable will, resonating with the same purpose. Together, you form an unshakable current, sweeping away all that is built on deceit and frailty. They do not fear what they can predict. They fear what they can neither comprehend nor control. Your presence is not an anomaly, but an inevitability, a shift in the tides that they can do nothing to resist. Every strike they make, every attempt to bend you, only fuels the energy that will shatter them. This is not a war of equals. It is an undoing, a collision between the immovable and the unsustainable. Their schemes, their illusions of permanence, crumble the moment they collide with you. You are not just part of the storm. You are the storm itself, and they have no refuge from what is coming. No force can halt what was set in motion long before their defiance took shape. You are not a reaction to their chaos. You are its counterweight, its inevitable resolution. The light within you is not something they can snuff out. It is something they will be forced to reckon with, piece by piece, as their own misdeeds fold upon themselves. Their downfall is not a punishment. It is a certainty woven into the very fabric of existence. With every action they take against you, the path toward their demise only solidifies. They do not realize that in trying to break you, they are only accelerating their own collapse. Every thread they weave in the dark will be unraveled by the very forces they believe they command. Their malice is a force that cannot travel in a straight line. It curves, bends, and ultimately returns with greater velocity than they ever anticipated. This is not chance. It is the nature of existence itself. They believe they are the hunters, yet they find themselves ensnared in their own traps, caught in the recoil of their own making. You do not evade their reach. You stand firm, untouched. while the weight of their own intent crushes them under the magnitude of its return. They stretch their hands toward you, convinced they can mold you into a shape that fits their schemes. Yet, their grasp is weak, their control an illusion. You are not something to be held, nor are you a piece in their puzzle. You are the flaw in their design, the element that refuses to conform. Their every attempt to twist your course only fortifies your trajectory, reinforcing what cannot be subdued. They are not builders of destiny. They are its casualties, grasping at what will forever remain beyond their understanding. Their failure is not an accident. It is an inevitability, and you are the unshaken force that makes it so. They believe they hold control, that every step you take is dictated by their unseen hand. Yet, their grip is an illusion, unraveling with every misguided attempt to bend you to their will. Their foundation is fragile, their methods built on outdated assumptions that collapse under the weight of their own arrogance. They think they are the architects of your fate, but in truth, they are the ones trapped within a design they cannot alter. Every move they make tightens the walls around them, revealing that they were never the ones pulling the strings. They were merely bound by them. If your heart overflows with God's blessings, let that love shine. Click the super thank you button and give $20 or more to plant seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your generosity reflects His abundance. Be a vessel of His grace and watch His kingdom flourish through you. Their greatest miscalculation is believing you can be contained, that your presence is an anomaly rather than an inevitability. They are prisoners of their own limited understanding, mistaking their diminishing influence for control. Every plan they devise, every obstacle they construct, only fuels your ascent. You are not subject to their rules, not a piece in their predetermined puzzle. Instead, you are the disruption that rewrites their script entirely. Their calculations fail because they are working with variables beyond their comprehension. When the equation balances, they are the ones erased from it. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against you in judgment, you shall condemn. Isaiah 54:17. Let me tell you something. When God sets you apart, when He anoints you for something greater, the world will do everything in its power to convince you that you don't belong. They will try to box you in, try to dictate your worth, try to make you question who you are. But what they don't realize is that you were never meant to fit in. You were meant to rise above. See, there's a story about an eagle's egg that ended up in a chicken coop. That eagle hatched among chickens, walked like a chicken, scratched at the dirt like a chicken. But deep inside, it was never a chicken. It was born for the sky. And one day, when it lifted its eyes and saw another eagle soaring, something inside it woke up. That eagle stretched its wings and realized, I wasn't made for the ground. I was made to fly. That's you. You were never meant to be confined by their system. They thought they were the architects of your destiny, that they could define your story. But they don't get to decide where God is taking you. They come forward with their titles, their rules, their systems, believing that they hold power. But the moment you step into the room, the balance shifts. The moment you rise, their fragile illusion begins to crack. Because you are not moving according to their timeline, their strategy, their expectations. You are moving in divine alignment. They call it rebellion, but it is reclamation. You are not fighting for something new. You are simply taking back what was already yours. Their plans unravel not because you resist, but because your very presence exposes their limitations. What they mistook for control was never real to begin with. They were never in charge. They were just keeping the seat warm until the rightful ruler arrived. And hear me now. You don't have to chase validation. You don't have to beg for acceptance. You don't have to lower yourself to their level. Let them exhaust themselves with their temporary victories. Let them scramble while you remain steady. Their chaos is loud, but your clarity is undeniable. They build walls, and you walk right through them. They create obstacles, and you turn them into stepping stones. Because you are not playing their game, you are writing the rules. The mistake they made was thinking they could pull the strings, thinking they could manipulate the outcome. But the truth is, they were never moving you. You were moving them. You were never under their authority. They were in your world, and they didn't even know it. And now, the time has come. The illusions they clung to are falling apart. The reality they ignored is standing right in front of them. They thought they could hold you back, but all they did was confirm what was already written. So, lift your head, walk in your purpose, because the throne was already yours before they ever tried to take it. They sow confusion, convinced that they dictate the landscape, but they fail to see that the terrain has already shifted beneath their feet. Their chaos is nothing more than a pattern waiting to be unraveled, and you hold the thread that undoes it all. They believe themselves to be unpredictable, yet they are trapped in a cycle that loops back upon itself, feeding their downfall. You do not react, you anticipate. You do not counter, you redefine. While they flail in uncertainty, you carve each moment with purpose, crafting an outcome that was never theirs to influence. They stretch their reach beyond their grasp, desperate to carve their will into something that does not bend. Yet, their own actions are the hammer that fractures their design. They believe themselves to be the engineers of destiny, but they are merely spectators in an unfolding transformation they cannot halt. Their tactics are misplaced, their vision flawed, because they still believe the rules of their past can define the future. But they have already lost, not because they were overpowered, but because they could never truly comprehend the force they sought to control. They believe they hold control, that every step you take is dictated by their unseen hand. Yet their grip is an illusion, unraveling with every misguided attempt to bend you to their will. Their foundation is fragile, their methods built on outdated assumptions that collapse under the weight of their own arrogance. They think they are the architects of your fate, but in truth, they are the ones trapped within a design they cannot alter. Every move they make tightens the walls around them, revealing that they were never the ones pulling the strings. They were merely bound by them. Their greatest miscalculation is believing you can be contained, that your presence is an anomaly rather than an inevitability. They are prisoners of their own limited understanding, mistaking their diminishing influence for control. Every plan they devise, every obstacle they construct, only fuels your ascent. You are not subject to their rules, not a piece in their predetermined puzzle. Instead, you are the disruption that rewrites their script entirely. Their calculations fail because they are working with variables beyond their comprehension. When the equation balances, they are the ones erased from it. They assume the world revolves around their design, failing to grasp that they are merely spectators in a sequence they can neither predict nor manipulate. They come forward as if their authority is absolute, unaware that they are walking directly into a reality they do not govern. Your existence alone is a shift in the axis, a force that unsettles the delicate structure they cling to. They call it defiance, but it is not rebellion. It is reclamation. Their old order fractures in your wake, and with each attempt to subdue you, they inscribe the very terms of their own undoing. What they mistake for resistance is actually precision. Their disorder does not derail you, it clarifies your path, sharpening every choice, every movement. They are lost in a fog of their own making. While you navigate with clarity, they cannot grasp. Their efforts to destabilize you only serve as stepping stones towards something greater. They play short games, exhausting themselves with momentary victories, while you move with intention, bending time and space to your advantage. Their hands scramble to alter what is already written, but they are out of time, and you are already beyond them. They sow confusion, convinced that they dictate the landscape, but they fail to see that the terrain has already shifted beneath their feet. Their chaos is nothing more than a pattern waiting to be unraveled, and you hold the thread that undoes it all. They believe themselves to be unpredictable, yet they are trapped in a cycle that loops back upon itself, feeding their downfall. You do not react, you anticipate. You do not counter, you redefine. While they flail in uncertainty, you carve each moment with purpose, crafting an outcome that was never theirs to influence. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Let me tell you something. When God's hand is on your life, when He has chosen you for something greater, the enemy will do everything in its power to shake you. It will send storms, whisper doubts, throw obstacles in your path, trying to make you question your place. But listen, you don't need to fight the storm when you are the calm in the middle of it. Imagine a tree planted by a river. The winds howl, the storm rages, the rain pours, but the tree doesn't fight the storm. It just stands. Its roots go deep, drawing strength from something unseen, something below the surface. The other trees may sway, may break, but this one remains, not because of its size, not because of its might, but because it is rooted in something greater. And when the storm passes, when the chaos has spent itself, that tree is still standing. That's you, unmoved, unshaken, unstoppable. They stretch their reach beyond their grasp, trying to force their will upon something that does not bend. They build their plans like a tower made of sand, believing they have the power to rewrite destiny itself. But what is not built on truth cannot stand. Their very efforts to carve their own authority into the world are the chisel that fractures their foundation. They see themselves as the architects of fate, but in reality, they are only standing in the way of something they cannot contain. And you are not worried, because you know how this ends. Their anger builds, their voices rise, their plans grow more desperate, spinning in circles, consuming themselves with their own chaos. They rage like a wildfire, but you are not kindling. You are not fuel for their destruction. While they thrash wildly, hoping to disrupt you, you remain still, anchored in something that cannot be moved. Every curse they send, every trap they lay, every scheme they devise boomerangs back upon them, intensified. Not because you retaliate, but because the natural order of the universe ensures that what they sow, they must reap. You don't have to defend yourself. Your existence is your defense. When a mountain stands, it does not argue with the wind. When the ocean moves, it does not ask for permission. When the sun rises, it does not seek validation. Neither do you. They thought they had power over you, but power isn't in schemes, in manipulation, in control. It's in knowing who you are, knowing where you're going, knowing that no force in this world can take away what was already set in motion. So Stian, Watch. Let them exhaust themselves trying to move something immovable. They will realize too late that their resistance was never against you. It was against truth itself. And truth does not bend. Truth does not break. Truth does not fail. Their downfall is not because of you. It is because of the weight of their own deception, the burden of their own fear, the gravity of their own choices. They tried to fight what was always meant to be, and that is a battle no one wins. You don't even have to fight. Because in the end, the storm they created only cleared the path for you to rise. What was meant to drain you only depletes them. They exhaust themselves in futile battles, unaware that their resistance serves only to strengthen you. While they are bound to fleeting struggles, you operate with unwavering certainty, moving through time with a force they cannot comprehend. Their desperation is an echo trapped within its own confines, while your purpose expands, untouched by their illusions of control. They misinterpret their influence as power, yet with every failed attempt to suppress you, they are forced to witness the undeniable truth. You remain, and they diminish. They cannot outmaneuver a system that is already set against them. Their own actions have woven the snare. Their own decisions have dictated the outcome. What they send outward returns, propelled by a force they refuse to acknowledge. They mistake defiance for dominance, failing to grasp that they are not rewriting fate, but entrenching themselves deeper within it. Their opposition does not alter your course. It only accelerates the inevitable. Their game was never about you. It was a battle against themselves, and they have already lost. They mistake retaliation for control, unaware that their own ambition tightens the constraints around them. Every calculated scheme, every act of manipulation, serves only to construct the very downfall they sought to avoid. The path they carve in vengeance does not lead to victory, but to self-destruction. While they plot in shadows, the structure they build crumbles beneath them. They thought themselves the architects, yet their hands tremble, their own actions forming the chains they can no longer break. Their downfall is not delivered by an outside force, it is summoned by their own deeds. The very energy they emit circles back, relentless and precise. They fail not because they are overpowered, but because they were never in control to begin with. They assumed they could distort the outcome, yet each effort merely reveals their powerlessness. Their end is not forced upon them, it is a weight they created, a burden they can no longer carry. And as they reach to shift the blame, they are met only with the cold reflection of their own choices. They construct their plans with the belief that they hold control, yet every effort to bring you down only propels you higher. What they thought was a snare was never even close to touching you. Their vision was flawed from the start, built on illusions that now collapse under their own weight. Too late, the realization crashes over them, a force not of your making, but of their own miscalculation. They believed themselves to be the architects of your downfall, only to discover that they were never even part of the equation. They moved in shadows, confident that they could dictate the game, certain that their grasp was unshakable. But certainty is fragile when it is built on arrogance. Their foundation crumbles as they come to terms with the depth of their misjudgment. You were never within their grasp, never confined to the roles they assigned. What they thought was dominance was merely self-deception. And now, standing amidst the wreckage of their own undoing, they are forced to acknowledge the one truth they never considered. You were never the one who needed to fight. Their downfall was always written into their own actions, a sequence of missteps leading them toward an end they refused to see. What they assumed to be a strategic assault was nothing more than a slow unraveling of their own making. You did not need to counter. Their own arrogance dictated the outcome long before they even made their first move. They were so consumed with the idea of your defeat that they failed to realize they were only ever working against themselves. Now, as reality settles in, they stand face to face with the consequences of their blindness. They misunderstood what true power meant. It was never about domination or control. It was about the ability to transform. While they poured their energy into destruction, they unknowingly fueled your ascent. Every attempt to break you became the very thing that refined you, solidifying your place beyond their reach. They mistook resilience for defiance, failing to recognize that nothing they did could ever shake what was meant to stand. And as their grip weakens, as their influence dissolves into nothing, they are left with the remnants of a battle they waged against themselves. The forces they unleashed were never meant to harm you. They were only ever meant to return to them. They thought they were in control, weaving their web with precision. But every thread was tied back to their own fate. The very malice they sent outward became the force that dismantled them. They did not foresee that their every attempt to suppress you was, in fact, an offering to something greater. They gifted you their negativity, only for you to forge it into strength. What they discarded as ruin, you molded into something unshakable, untouchable, something beyond them. They miscalculate because they cannot grasp what defies their understanding. Strength is not measured in mere force, but in the certainty of what cannot be undone. Each challenge they cast in your direction is absorbed, met with an unwavering stillness that unsettles them. They attempt to dictate the rules, only to realize too late that the very foundation of their game crumbles beneath them. Every attempt to limit you becomes proof of your ascendancy. They thought they were writing your ending, yet the script was never theirs to hold. Their belief in their own power blinds them to the irony woven into their fate. They come with conviction, assuming control over a path they never paved. What they set in motion does not reach you. Instead, it spirals back upon them with an inevitability they never accounted for. The force they seek to suppress only amplifies, their own efforts carving out the very space in which you rise. Their attempts to overshadow you cast light upon their own insignificance. They do not fall because of you. They fall because they stood on a foundation that was never solid to begin with. Every illusion they projected now stands shattered before them. They thought they were the architects, shaping a reality in their favor, yet they now see their own reflection in the ruins of their plans. They set the trap and walked willingly into it, never realizing that they were never hunting anything but their own ghosts. What they believed to be your downfall was merely the unveiling of their own weakness. Their strikes do not land, their plots do not hold, for they were never meant to reach beyond the walls of their own limitations. They assumed that resistance could alter the inevitable, that by opposing, they could rewrite an outcome beyond their grasp. But every action they took only wove a stronger foundation beneath your feet. They played their part, unknowingly ensuring the very thing they feared the most. Their aggression became the forge, their defiance the anvil, and all they accomplished was refining what could not be broken. They thought they were standing against you, but in reality, they were merely proving the unshakable nature of what they sought to erase. This is not about winning or losing. It is about what was always meant to be. Their interference was never a challenge, only a process, an inevitable step towards something far greater than their comprehension. They were never the adversary, they were only the catalysts of their own undoing. The obstacles they believed would halt your path became the very steps that propelled you forward. They fought the current, believing they could turn it, only to find themselves carried away by a force they could never contain. Now let the truth be undeniable. Let it be seen that every moment of resistance, every attempt to silence or suppress, only fueled the inevitable. Their efforts were never a hindrance, they were merely the echoes of something already lost. This is not about proving anything to them, it never was.